one or two questions about Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter, wouldn't Black African leaders also indicate a willingness to support the proposition? I was brought up in South Birmingham a long time ago. The past is another country. I used to walk down the hill, then over a little bridge and up the hill again. At the top of the hill, on the left, on the corner, was and is a small chapel. There I received my first education about Africa, specifically about the Congo, where our missionaries worked. Congolo, Mwanza, Kamina, Elizabethville were all familiar names, plus many others which I've forgotten. Books written by the founders of the mission described African villages they entered, some with great piles of skulls outside, the chief's enemies. Then, of course, there were the Belgians, whose king enslaved the population and committed innumerable atrocities. Missionary Ruth Emmett told the Belgians off. "Do not call them animals," she said. Years later, I flew into Salisbury, as it still was. Robert Mugabe had just come to power. We all had hopes of a new dawn, but it was not to be. After I left Zimbabwe, I wrote a book detailing some of the dreadful things which happened there. The book got banned. The BBC wouldn't review it. All the time, the real story, the only story as far as the BBC was concerned, was going on outside the South African embassy, the protests for the release of Nelson Mandela. Elsewhere, the whole scenario in Africa, the genocide in Rwanda, for example, was and is one of overwhelming disaster. I don't particularly blame the Africans, but I do blame the left, who with the Americans pressed for the dissolution of the British Empire, surrendering vast tracts of the globe into the hands of self-serving, unscrupulous lawyers. But regarding Africa, one can only hope something changes. Africa remains the hope of the world, the guardian of true happiness, with an essential faith retained from the missionaries, and somewhere in Ethiopia perhaps is hidden the Ark of the Covenant.